there's usually drivers, like they have an initiative that is usually tied to bringing in more revenue, cutting costs, mitigating risk. Those are complex problems that take time to kind of create the right solution. And so asking the right questions and understanding what the drivers are for why they're doing, and then oftentimes the motivation behind the person.
Welcome to Girls Make Bank, the podcast show for women who want to learn the art of selling for business and for life. I'm Jack White, seasoned sales professional, entrepreneur, and owner of Honeybees Group. Come back each week to hear inspiring stories from some of our favorite business owners. Learn how to take the ick out of selling and make bank. We're all in this together, so let's get started. Hello, girlfriends. Welcome to the Girls Make Bank podcast. And today we are in for a treat. I would like to welcome Alexis Reardon, who is the founder of Fanfaire, a vertical SaaS solution for the special events industry, to the podcast. Alexis has over a decade of experience as a seasoned tech professional, dedicating her career to assisting large corporations in building, optimizing, and securing applications that drive their business forward. She's a trailblazer at the intersection of technology and celebration, and I am so happy to have her here with us today. Alexis, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Jack. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. I am happy to have you. And you worked for many years in technology sales. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your background and how you got the inspiration to build Fanfaire.
Sure, yeah. So I was working for a few large name tech companies and working with large corporations, trying to understand what their business problems were and solving it with technology. And so it's so funny because I have two daughters and I was throwing a birthday party for my 2-year-old, my older daughter now. And I wanted to make her event decor awesome. And so I went on this path of like DIYing a backdrop with balloons and lettering and all the details. And it was a ton of work. And so from the birthday experience, I decided to create a local business because I thought other moms want to have awesome parties. Like that would be a really fun creative outlet. Through building that small business, I discovered that there are really no solutions that meet the needs for me to run this business. And it's really time consuming to get on the same page with clients. And so I thought, okay, well, I address really big, complex problems for large organizations. Why can't I do this for small businesses? And so I thought, okay, I kind of dreamt up this idea of how, one, businesses could sell their services and get on the same page with the clients really easy, but also how do I bring the client into the process where they can see and discover what's possible for their event? Oftentimes people will want to show an inspiration pic and you're kind of copying other people's work, but I really wanted it to come from a place of like true discovery. How can we create something amazing for your event without just copying other people's ideas, but through like color, through exploration of like different backdrops, props, small details, and bringing a design to life from scratch. And so it was kind of ambitious at the moment to be like, okay, I'm going to go do this wellness consumer tech play. But I just went for it.
And isn't that so much of like how these businesses start is you think, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to solve this problem. And then you have this like, oh my gosh moment where you're like, I'm in over my head. That's where the best work happens.
Yeah, totally. Yep. I've had a few of those moments.
And so what is Fanfaire and who exactly are you targeting with this business?
Yeah, so Fanfaire is really for businesses just like mine. Usually these are women, oftentimes they're moms who are trying to deliver event decor locally. And so you can think about a business that does backdrops, props, balloons, florals, any real details to fill a space, to enhance the theme of an event, to create a photo moment. Those entrepreneurs are my clients. And so Fanfaire is a platform for them to sell their services online visually. And so clients can come on to what we call their digital storefront. They can design on their own and discover what they like through a series of choices in this guided buying experience. Or they can engage the business for their expertise and they can have this concept of live collaboration where clients and the business can also like work together to co-create. One of the parts of Fanfaire that really makes it magical and really the selling part is as the client designs, the pricing adjusts with their decisions as they go. And so this really like leads with transparency so people can be on the same page and realistic about what is going to happen in their event. Oftentimes, you get carried away in your dreams of what you want the event to be, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is going to cost me thousands of dollars, and my budget is actually only $500." And so, this kind of makes it a lot more constructive for businesses and clients to work together, while pricing is the persistent component along with the visuals.
That's great. And you had an extensive career in tech and in sales before founding Fanfare. How does that experience with B2B sales influence your approach to sales here? Because there's obviously some similarities, but the scale is different, the target is different, the sales cycle is probably different, how you're bringing people on. Like, how do you take what you were doing and apply it to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So for my long-term tech career, it was really a very consultative sell. A lot of time building rapport with clients and asking a lot of discovery questions to understand what their needs are and how do I shape a proposal that is really going to solve the problems that they're facing. So in big tech, there's usually drivers like they have an initiative that is usually tied to bringing in more revenue, cutting costs, mitigating risk. Those are complex problems that take time to kind of create the right solution, right? And so asking the right questions and understanding what the drivers are for why they're doing, and then oftentimes the motivation behind the person who is running the project help shape how the solution comes together. That's usually very time consuming, not visual, um, and it can be. I guess like the visual aspect is really like architecting out the solution and providing
Mhm.
all of the details in a really clunky document that gets presented up the chain. For Fanfare, I wanted to kind of flip all of that and make it extremely visual and easy because it's so consumer focused and it doesn't need to be this long, you know, initiative or project. It's
Yeah, you're
supposed to be
probably
fun.
making decisions pretty fast. If it's like an event, it's like 3 weeks from now, or
Right.
it's
Yeah.
when the budgets aren't high, but sort of the decision making time is shortened.
Yeah. So I think they really love this part of the process. They want to be involved in what is the event going to look like. And their motivations are usually very emotional. So people are throwing a bridal shower for their daughter or a baby shower and it's been hard to get pregnant or, this is my parents, 50th wedding anniversary, whatever it is, there's usually like an emotional motivation behind it and they want it to be really great. But then budget is always a factor, right? So they want to be able to deliver something amazing for their guests because they also have a sense of pride in like, this is a special moment for my family. And so the buying process that I've created is really to allow clients and the business to explore together. And so it takes the verbal question part of it, and the questions are happening on screen. So do you
Hmm.
want this display to be fuller? Do you want to add how can we like enhance this style with color? So all of those questions that would be asked are just happening on screen for the client so they can kind of discover what they like. They may not have thought through all of those details. I guess like your question was more like how does my past career shape the way that I do this? But I think it's still really about like understanding what the client wants, allowing them to discover what is the right solution for them, and allowing them to have full access to the information to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
In sales, the worst thing that can happen is when they make no decision. And so just helping people get to the decision, right? They already have the idea that I want event decor. I want it to look awesome. Are you the right fit? Or, hey, you're the right fit. I love what you do. How can I get your services that I love to meet my price point and the space for my event? So there's usually the question might be a little bit tilted a little bit differently based on the client
Hmm.
perspective.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, you want them to be able to decide this is the right thing for me.
Yeah. And I think that's like the general, like 50,000 foot view of sales in general is, listening to your customer, listening to your client, and finding out what it is they want to do. In a B2B sales organization, that's a lot of conversation and back and forth and discovery. In your platform, I love that you've built this visual discovery where it's really, client driven, to do a lot of that. And then it's providing the solution and the transparency in pricing. I love because I always feel like that's a barrier for or a perceived objection for a lot of people in sales is, well, how much is this going to cost? And I love that that's really forward on your platform, especially around something where, what might seem like a small decision change around what type of flower or how big of, how many balloons could impact the cost and the investment pretty significantly.
Yeah. Um, that part, obviously like what can make or break a deal. So,
Mhm.
in the way that people typically do it today is they listen to all what the client's hearing, what the client's saying, they absorb it, and then they send back potentially a mock-up or a proposal, but that's a one-sided negotiation. Hey, here's what I think you should do. And that often has the client like, like I guess I really described what I want. That's what I really want, but I really can't afford what that is. And so that will leave the client like, okay, now I'm uncomfortable to negotiate. I'm uncomfortable to ask for a discount, or I'm asking for a discount. Now the business is mad. And so it just creates like a really negative experience where in Fanfare, you can explore your options without having that awkward negotiation. And you can probably find something that will meet your price point without just being a one way, like, okay, I have to say no to this proposal. It's more like, what are all the possibilities I can say yes to?
Yeah, and you bring up such an interesting point because we talk a lot about sales where, the salesperson, especially if you're a founder driving sales in your business or, sales can be uncomfortable for women. And you brought up an interesting point that the person sitting at the other side of the table may also be uncomfortable negotiating or responding. And so that's a really insightful thing is that, taking sort of the pressure and the uncomfortableness and the friction away from both sides to like get to the right solution and get the sale closed. I think that's really interesting. We spoke before this call about product-led sales, and we've touched on it a little bit, but I want to be specific. Can you explain what a product-led approach to sales is and how it differs from maybe the traditional sales methods that we also have been talking about?
Yeah. So I would say I'm a seasoned sales professional. I've been in sales and selling, direct selling for a very long time. Product led is newer to me, but a concept that I really wanted to adopt for Fanfare. So, how I sell to my clients. And so, the whole concept is clients may become aware of what we do, maybe through this podcast or online, through social media, through a friend. And now that they have this awareness, they're curious and they want to go do some research and discover what it is on their own. So they'll go to our website, they'll go to our social media, they'll go to whatever resources they can Google and to try to collect information about what Fanfare is and how it works. And so hopefully we've displayed enough where they can see, okay, I get this concept. Now I can offer this visual selling experience to my clients. It makes it easy for me to automate all of my services. And now I like this enough that I want to actually sign up for a free trial. And so all of that actual sale is happening without any involvement of a salesperson ever talking to anybody at my company. And so that's the product led part. The product is almost speaking for itself, but the actual selling happens after they sign up for the free trial. In that trial period, we need to wow them. We need to show them, hey, this is actually easy to set up. We've thought of all the things. We've discovered this through, working in my own business. I'm our first customer, so I know all the things that I want to change within the platform and through our customers. And so we know how this should work. We've infused best practices into the platform. Now the client needs to decide, hey, is this the right fit for how I want to run my business? And if so, they'll become a paying customer. And so that trial to conversion is the product led. The product is speaking for itself. Now that doesn't mean that we never talk to the client, right? I've talked to every single one of our clients, and so that's because I'm a young company and I want to make sure that my clients are happy. But that doesn't. So product led is really like the product speaks for itself, but that doesn't mean like I've forgotten all of the old ways of selling, of like building rapport, understanding what clients are going through, and trying to help their experience improve. So that is a huge departure from my old way of
Yeah.
doing things, but I still have some, the the warm personal touch of, understanding what clients need.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of service-based businesses or platform-based companies that can take a product-led approach to get people further down the funnel or get that free trial going or offer a lower tier service or product to get them into the mix. And that's especially important when you don't have a huge sales team, when it's either just the founder selling or a very small sales team is, in order to get that scale in sales or in customers, and in order to get people on board, the more you can sort of let the product sell itself, I think the better. And so I think that's a great sort of opportunity for a lot of service-based businesses to think about how can we remove some of the steps in our sales process and automate it or let the product sell itself.
A lot of your clients might be, sharing content, courses, um, maybe they're a graphic designer or, any kind of services, right? Sometimes these types of businesses can lead with just offering some value up front, like these are some strong tips of how you should um design how to design a logo. These are the elements that I look for in designing a logo. So they start to give you some tidbits of like, ooh, wow, okay, this person really knows what they're talking about. So it's giving the client something for free, but it also is showing like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. So it gives you the credibility to potentially attract that person as a client, right?
So whether it's a freebie, signing up for an email newsletter or a webinar course that, a mastermind you sort of open up to everybody for free, this idea of letting the product speak for itself and let your authority sort of guide the sales process. I love. You mentioned something that I want to go back to, that you're a young company and you talk to every single one of your clients. How does that customer feedback play into shaping your product development and improving the product? Because while you started out, right, you were client number one,
Yeah.
um, you're targeting a pretty, while niche, a big market that has, cities and markets all over. How does that feedback, how do you think about it? How does it play into your product roadmap? What do you do with it from there?
Yeah. Well, so I want to hear it, especially if someone has a lot to say or they're dissatisfied with something. I want to hear every detail. That really helps to shape our roadmap. Oh, there's a lot of little tweaks that I'll make regularly when I hear feedback. And so some things we can get to quickly and other things are foundational. We can't make those changes. It's going to be too complex and it's going to derail the rest of our roadmap. So obviously it's just prioritization, but I want to hear every bit of feedback. Most of the time I agree with my customers, right? Like I'm like, yeah, that would be a great improvement. Or we've been thinking about that. I'm hearing that more. Maybe I'm going to reprioritize that as something that should come sooner you know, than these other things that are on the list. So it's really just like a constant queue of like listening, reprioritization. There have been a few times where I'm like, that I hate that idea because it sounds old school and I don't want to say that I hate your idea, but I'll just tell them like, look, like let's change your mindset of how we're doing this. We're trying to evolve the process and modernize it. And so
Mm,
usually I can get people onto my train of thought if I
yeah,
don't agree with them.
yeah.
But yeah, it definitely helps to shape how the product goes because I also want to think about this for other categories too. We're going to be building out a whole suite of solutions. And so the more flexible I can make the platform today, the more use cases I have in the future and the better it is for my customers. But I also want to keep it niche because if it's too vanillaized, it's not really that valuable to
Mhm.
anybody, right?
Yeah,
If it's just too general.
yeah. And I think especially when what you're building is, new to your category, right? It's a first to market solution for what is a really big industry, niche but large industry. When you say that, the feedback you get feels old school, I think feedback like that is actually still very helpful because you can turn that into messaging through your marketing collateral on your website as a way to educate current and potential clients, right? People you're bringing onto the platform as service providers as to why you're doing something different, why this isn't like the old way. And so when we conduct customer feedback calls, I love when I don't agree with people about things also because it becomes an opportunity, to educate one on one. But oftentimes when I hear that more than once, I'm like, oh, okay, this is an opportunity to educate people as to like why we do things the way we do it and not the way everybody else does it.
Yeah. Yeah. If I wanted to create what was already created, then I would have never started the business.
Building rapport is a key to successful sales. We know this. How do you recommend creating that authentic connection with your clients from that first conversation? Especially, and I guess this can come from both sides, from you with the service providers that you're bringing onto the platform, and then the service providers that are maybe coming into the sales process not from the very beginning, right? Because they're being discovered on the platform. Rapport is still important. The old rules of selling still exist and still matter. How do you suggest and reaching back into your old sales, toolkit also? What are some tips for building rapport really quickly and easily with customers?
I think for my clients with their clients, they're teed up for success from the get-go. Hey, what's the event? Like tell me about what's going on in your life. Like that's very easy, right? Like, oh, you're throwing a party for your daughter. She's turning 8. Oh, what a fun age. Like I have kids. Easy to relate. So usually you can kind of like, you know,
Mhm.
find some common ground because you've done a party like that. Or even if it's, maybe you don't have kids, but you're like, oh, it's a space theme. I did this awesome space theme party. I'd love to send you some fun pictures. They did it like this. I thought this was unique. They used lighter colors instead of like the darks and the silvers and, purple and blue. And oh, wow, this is a completely different way to do a similar theme. So you can easily build rapport there. For my clients, I've been in their shoes. I've had a business just like theirs. And so that's probably for the people who are selling a service or I guess branding continues to be top of mind because I would say that really not my my forte. And I'm trying to infuse my branding into our website right now. So if you had a service of creating like an amazing brand, you would want to just talk about, well, what don't you like about your brand? Like let's dig into like what are the things that you really want to stand out in your brand? You kind of just do this natural discovery of like why are they looking for these services? And as you discover, well, I want my brand to stand out and be very feminine because I want to sell to women entrepreneurs because they are just like me and I always wish I had this help when I started my, entrepreneurial career. And you're like, oh
Mhm.
wow, that's just like me. Right? So there are ways to just ask them some basic questions, and usually people wanna see themselves and their customers because they think that they're alike from the get-go. So just I guess just asking people what they're up to.
Yeah. And I love that because Fanfare provides a great platform where your service providers are capturing a lot of data at the beginning of the sales process. I think there's opportunities for other service providers and in general to collect intake forms on your website, quizzes or, any information that you can sort of gather at the beginning or pre sort of consultation call or pre, direct communication with your client, I think helps make that first point of contact more productive because you're sort of starting with some background and can kind of, build from there.
Especially if you're uncomfortable with this concept of building rapport from the first time, that can help you have a little bit of information going in so you feel like, okay, I'm warmed up for the conversation
Yeah,
if you have that kind of anxiety over meeting new people.
exactly. So, looking ahead, what's your vision for Fanfare in helping more companies, especially female led businesses, sell more, sell better, and really grow their companies?
Well, first of all, we're trying to continue to tweak the buying experience, so making it more intuitive and easy for their customers. So we want it to be as easy as buying something on Amazon, right? It should be like ordering an Uber. I get how to use this, boom, I'm done, right?
Hmm.
Um, So smoothing out any little kinks there or any parts for confusion. But as far as growing businesses, we're moving into other categories. So florals will be our next major category. And I think this also opens up the ability for people who are doing local event decor to expand their services into other areas. And so if they can expand their services, they could potentially capture more budget per event. And
Mm,
so that's a great way to just grow your overall revenue within your local market. You start to develop those relationships, get more referrals. The other way is so if say your core business is backdrops, props, balloons, that's your core business. If there is a floral company nearby that's also using the services, we can say after the client checks out with your event decor, hey, have you thought about florals, and suggest another company nearby. And so there's becomes this like network effect of referrals. And so what we don't want to be is a searchable marketplace, because I really believe that that drives prices down. If I can go get quote, get quote, get quote, I'm putting all this work on the business to come up with these proposals, and I'm actually just looking for the cheapest option, right? And so it's not really not about price, it's about what can I deliver for my event with the businesses that I want to work with. And so if I can create this network effect of referrals, I'm giving the end client this similar explorative experience of discovering what they want at their event, but
yeah.
also passing the referrals to other reputable businesses who want to extend a modern buying experience. There's a lot more to that. I want to have all of these small businesses be plugged in to larger venues. So large local venues, hotels. And so when a hotel has a list of preferred vendors, they would be able to easily plug in these small local businesses to provide those services and an amazing experience for their hotel guests, right?
Love it.
So there's a much bigger vision here. I could
Yeah.
go on all day
Yeah.
about this, but while we try to increase their sales, improve their profit margins, and upsell their clients, that's the short term, and make this easy for people to buy, we will be able to get this like whole lift of having this integrated network within
Yeah.
their region.
Yeah. I love that. And you're just getting started. You are
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
getting started. You're going to do all of that. So Alexis, tell us how we can find you and how we can find Fanfare if we want more information.
Yeah. So my website is fanfare, FANFAIRE.io, and that is for the US and Canada. And then we also just opened the UK market, which I'm really excited about. So if anyone is listening from the UK, it's Fanfaire, FANFAIRE.co.uk. And then you can follow us on Instagram, which is probably the easiest place. It's just at fanfare.io.
Got it. Love it. Well, thank you so much. I think this was a great conversation talking about a lot of different topics. I love the idea of, you know, building a solution for a problem that you have that other people have. And thank you for coming on. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you, Jack. I've enjoyed it as well.
Thanks so much. And until next time, girls, let's make bank. Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Make Bank. If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe, like, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Please review and share our show to help spread the word and help your girls make bank. And I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, or visit honeybeesgroup.co. Until next time, friends.
Okay. I think I rambled quite a bit.